Introducing the new JSB 30 cal knockouts. These things are beautifully made and they are amazingly accurate. Here's a close-up shot. That's a nice wide hollow point cavity. Destruction ensues. Alright guys, while I load the magazine, the target on the right that you can see in the background is going to be shot with a, not really a loose hold, but the butt stock of the gun is not really in my shoulder. What I'm showing you guys is you really have to know your gun, and printing one group doesn't really prove anything. You have to be able to shoot your gun consistent. So watch as I take the first couple of shots. You can see the groups are spread. That's because, again, the buttstock is not firmly in my shoulder. Let's go ahead and take 2 more shots. That wasn't a flyer. I don't have a firm hold on the gun, and due to its 90 foot-pounds, the gun recoils and slides. Now watch as I back it into my shoulder firmly. Watch the third shot. That's what I'm looking for. Number 4. Yes, sir. And number 5. Groups can depend on how well or how you hold your gun. Alright guys, now that we have the Oregon 30 and the new JSB KnockOut 30 sighted in at 60 yards, let's go ahead and decimate this tomato. Yep, dead center. Let's watch it again in slow motion, just to show you the effectiveness of the new hollow point. Done. Alright guys, let's move on to some ballistics gel testing. This is going to be the JSB KnockOut 30s versus the FX hybrids. In future videos, I plan to feature more slugs on the market, such as NSA, varmint knockers, and others. I would like to bump the power of my Oregon 30 from 85 foot-pounds to 90 foot-pounds and do another ballistics gel testing. I mean, we are talking hollow point slugs, so let's really push these things to see how they perform. But for now, my gun is still tuned at 85 foot-pounds, and it's making roughly 65 foot-pounds at the gel. Let's take a look on performance. That was the JSB KnockOut. Let's take a look at the permanent wound cavity. Quite the little bit of expansion. Very nice. Up next, guys, is the FX hybrid. Remember, this is 50 yards away from the muzzle. Let's see which of the two has the biggest permanent wound cavity. I barely caught a glimpse of it, but the FX hybrid might have the bigger wound cavity. Let's see in a second. Here is the freeze frame. Yeah, that's a pretty big one. You can tell this thing opened pretty much within an inch immediately. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at side-by-side comparison. JSB knockouts on top, FX hybrids on the bottom. There is the impact speed and impact foot-pounds of energy. Remember, the gel block is 50 yards away from the muzzle. BC for the hybrid is 0.07, and for the knockout it's 0.086. Okay, that was cool. Let's prepare to remove the slugs from the 10% Ballistics FBI spec gelatin. Let's get to this real quick. We have the ballistics gel test from the JSB KnockOut versus other contenders. I'm going to set this here. Don't know how much you can see in the video, but we'll just assume that you can. You have a Hades, 30 cal Hades entered here, stopped right there. You have the one on the bottom here,
This is the 30 cal KnockOut JSB, and this is the FX hybrid. Shot these a little too close to each other, but you know what? When you're out in the field, man, this is the stuff that happens when you're running videotapes. With ballistic gel, you only get one shot. So I flipped it over and I reshot them again, but just the JSB KnockOut versus the FX hybrid. So let's go ahead and take some measurements. We'll start on this side. We have 6 inches for the JSB KnockOut. And right here, we have to the bullet, we actually have 2.5, which means the hybrids really, really expanded and exploded, and they didn't go in very far. Okay, so now if we go to the other side, to the Hades, 30 cal Hades, you have 6 inches, and to the KnockOut 30, you have 6 inches. FX hybrid, you have 3 3/4 inches. And the reason why I do this is to make sure that you want to see the consistency of the projectiles. So we know the Hades they're gonna go in pretty far. But what we're looking at is the consistency of the actual slugs themselves. And as you can see from this side to this side, they both went exactly 6 inches. That gives us a lot of information, guys. Think about what that's saying. Not only is the weight and the expansion of the JSB KnockOut consistent, but the velocity of my gun is also consistent for it to send it exactly the same. And look at the FX hybrids. One went in a lot further than the other, even though you can see right here, it stopped and then it got swallowed back. This is typical of projectiles. They will go in a little further and then they'll kind of go back to the biggest part, where the smallest section and the biggest part of the permanent wound cavity meet. They'll kind of go back. That's kind of typical. They don't all do that, but as you can see in these, it still went another inch in. The Hades went another 2.5 inches in and then came back. But look at the KnockOut. 30 cal JSB KnockOut, 6 inches on both ends. All right, let's go ahead and remove the projectiles and take a look. So we got consistency, and I can tell by looking at the projectiles, they expanded the same. So let's start right here with the hybrid. This stuff is tough, guys. Try to keep my finger out of the way. I'm not really worried about cutting myself, but this stuff is very tough and it does not just give. So FX hybrid, really, really nice expansion. Not gonna lie, that looks great. They definitely don't penetrate that far, but as far as the expansion, awesome. Let's go to the KnockOut that came on the same side with the hybrid. Look at that. Looks like something out of a Federal Hornady magazine. I mean, look at the expansion. That is awesome. The hybrid definitely expanded more, but this has more core. So this is going to drive deeper than that every single time. 44 grains versus 50. All right, let's dig out the FX hybrid. Again, phenomenal expansion. It did exactly what it should. It peeled back all the way back to the core because it has a very, very hollow cavity, very hollow, very thin walls. That's why the weight, it has the body profile of a 62 grain, but only has the weight of 44 grains. So that means that this has a seriously hollow cavity. Yes, they are explosive. I would definitely go with the heavier weight. Just helps that projectile drive in a lot further. There you go. There's another KnockOut. Side profile. I mean, look at this, guys. There's the second one. Here's the first one. If you flip them over, look at that. Twin expansion, man. Twin expansion. down to a couple thousandths of an inch, I can already tell you. The FX hybrids did the same thing, but watch. All right, so now let's move that to the side and take a look at the pellets. All right, let's get a little rundown. Before we do anything, let's talk about speed. The JSB 30 cal Hades are running roughly 930 feet per second. The new 30 cal knockouts are running 885 feet per second at the muzzle. The FX hybrids are running 915 feet per second at the muzzle. I will put up a caption here or here somewhere telling you guys what impact velocities these hit the gel at. That's important to know. I see a lot of guys on YouTube doing firearms testing. They're taking high-powered rifles and they're actually shooting gelatin blocks, 16-inch gelatin blocks at 7, 8, 10, 15 feet away. Well, in a handgun, I could understand that because most handgun fights would happen within 7 to 10 yards. But hunting rounds, I don't understand why people test at ranges through ballistics gel that you're never going to shoot an animal at. No moose is going to walk within, well, let me rephrase that. Most people are not going to shoot a moose or an elk or a deer at only 7 yards away with a 30-06. So I set these, not these, but I set the ballistics gel up at 50 yards, and I do 50 yards as a standard for us air gunners because that's what most people hunt at. So we didn't get any expansion from the Hades because these either hit a table. We're not really looking at the Hades. We're looking at actually the knockout. So let's take a look. And right now they've gone from 0.300 to 0.385. 0.385. Now spin it around. Yep, about 382. Spin it around. Yep, about 385, 386 again. So yeah, about 385. Now we're going to take the second one. And we're going to do the same thing. About 386. And here's about 389 at the most. So we're staying consistent, roughly about 385 to 388 inches on expansion. And that's not bad at all. Did these expand more? Yes, sir, they did by a big margin. So now you're looking at 0.525 or 523, 495, 0.495. So this FX hybrid definitely expanded more, but they also went a third of the distance, 2 or 3 inches versus 6 inches. So you're talking a third to half the distance. Awesome expansion, almost 50 caliber. That is awesome expansion. But again, I'm going to take the heavier projectile at 50.15 grains that went in 6 inches at 50 yards versus something that went in 2.5 inches. And so the best overall penetration and expansion right there, buddy. JSB KnockOut 30 cal. $75 yards. First kill, JSB knockouts, 75 yards, 30 cal.